Hey now everybody, Jamie here, and today I'm not going to be talking about the new hotness. I ain't going to Board Game Geek or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or wherever they talk about whatever's crazy on people's minds right now. I'm going to be talking about older games. Now this is a video concept that I did a couple of years ago and I loved it. I love talking about older games. Today we're talking about games you may have forgotten about, games that you may never even heard of before. Maybe you started gaming after these things were hot. These are games that deserve attention. So today I'm talking about 5 forgotten games that need to be rediscovered. Bootleggers. Now the first one on the list, I gotta say, is probably the one that shows its age the most. It came out in 2004. It was reprinted later by Mayday Games, and they changed the production. I don't even think they changed the production at all, as a matter of fact. I think it's pretty much the same game when it came out. And it looks like an older game with just tons of plastic mobsters, tons of plastic trucks and cubes to load up on those trucks and so on and so forth. So it feels like a game of its era, 20 years ago almost. Now, this is a game where you play mobsters during the Prohibition era, and you are firing up your stills, you're making booze, you're filling up trucks and going out to the speakeasies to sell them to the various speakeasies. There's also an element of territory control because you want to have influence in those various speakeasies so you can muscle them. You can force them to buy your booze as opposed to the other player's booze. And there's also an element of negotiation. And if you know anything about me and you listen to the podcast, you know negotiation is one of my favorite mechanisms because I just revel in being a car salesman in these games. And in this case, you're a booze salesman and actually a car salesman too. Because in the game, it's got a little bit of randomness because when you fire up your stills, you're rolling dice to see how much you make. You could roll poorly and make nothing, or you could roll really high and make a ton. And you have to buy trucks to load that booze onto. And you might not have enough money to get enough trucks to load all your booze, so you have to sell that booze off to the other players. Or you might make so little that you have extra trucks lying around, you could rent them out to the other players. So you're negotiating prices to trade all this stuff around and help each other out, all the while trying to make the most money. So the negotiation in this game gets pretty cutthroat. There's a lot of take that in the game as well. There's mobster cards with that you can perform a hit and kill some of the influence off of somebody's speakeasy, kill some of the mobsters. You could steal people's trucks, all sorts of different things with the card play as well. So this game is super thematic in that you're throwing on your old-timey gangster voices and you're going out there and trying to murder everybody else's gangsters and make as much booze as you can and try to make shrewd deals along the way. So this one is just a cool game. You got to deal with a little bit of randomness. You have to be into the negotiation to make it fun. But really, if you can find Bootleggers, I highly recommend you check it out. Genoa. The second one on the list came out in 2001, and unlike Bootleggers, I feel as though that this game could have been designed yesterday. It feels so good. It is a standard Euro game. The standard Euro game theme of you're collecting resources so that you can fulfill contracts, deliver messages, and set collect cards. That's really what is going on in the game. That's how you're going to score points. Points are money in this game. But what makes this game really different, the crux of this game, is similar to Bootleggers, the negotiation. You're trying to negotiate with the other players to take certain actions because there's a unique mechanic in the game about how you move the action pawn. It's a stack of 5 discs, and whoever's turn it is gets to move that stack of 5 discs 4 spaces, leaving behind 1 disc in each space. If it moves into a space with an action space, obviously the active player can choose to take it or not. Other than that, he can have the other players bid money given to you to take that action, to get permission to take that action. Or they can try to pay you money to move the stack in a certain direction because they want a particular action. And you can sell it for any price that you want. So it's a ton of negotiation in this game. And I think that's the only maybe drawback of the game is that if your group is not into negotiation at all, this one is left on the shelf because it's all about that. The crux of the game is the negotiation, all of the other stuff, collecting cards and delivering goods and all that different stuff. It's very simple stuff, but it all revolves around doing that negotiation. Now, like I said, I feel like this game could have been designed yesterday because it feels new. I've never seen any game that has this movement mechanism since. I mean, of course, there could be, but I don't play every game in the world, but this just feels different. And it works really well. And if your group's really into that negotiation, it can be a wild romp. It can be a ton of fun. So like Bootleggers, if you can find Genoa anywhere out there, I don't see people reprinting it or making new versions of it at this point. If you can find it, I'm sure you're going to love Genoa. Serenissima. Serenissima. Now this one was originally brought out in 1996 and was later revised and reprinted in 2012. They made a few changes to make the system a little better. They updated the artwork and the components to make them a little better. And I got to tell you, I have the 2012 version and I really dig it. Now, if you've ever played Merchants and Marauders, this is kind of similar to that, only much simpler. It's a pick up and deliver game at sea, and there's also combat involved. Now, one of the cool things about this game is that when you stop off at a port, obviously you can pick up goods and put them in your ship. Your ships have these five little holes in it. You can put your goods in there. But you also have to hire sailors to sail the thing, and they take up space. So if you have 2 sailors and 3 goods, you can go a certain distance. If you have 2 goods and 3 sailors, you move a lot faster and your combat's a lot better, but you're carrying less goods. So it's really cool to balance that. And one thing that makes that aspect awesome is the fact that you can have a ton of ships too. It's not just one ship, you can have a ton. You buy a new ship, you pick one of the many ships that are sitting there, and each one of them has a number on it. And at the top, there's this little wheel that shows you the turn order. The number of your ship is the order it's gonna go in the turn. So you can engineer having a whole bunch of turns in a row, or you can spread them out across the entire round, however you wanna do it. I really love this concept, and I think it adds for a lot of strategy and a lot of ways that you could sort of build your little merchant vessels and have some of them that are pirates that go out and attack and some of them that protect your merchant vessels. I love the way that that all works. Now, I will say that it kind of shows its age a little bit in that combat can be very swingy. Sometimes combat's a little hard to get into as the attacker because you have to put a lot of sailors in there and you have to be in the right place at the right time to be successful in combat. So it's not a perfect combat system, but I got to tell you, when I go for a pick up and deliver style game, this is one that I always think of and want to play because it's got a cool theme, it's got cool components, it's got those neat concepts with balancing the sailors versus the goods, and also the concept that you can have tons of ships. You can have a fleet of ships on the board. It's a ton of fun. If you can find it, check it out. Serenissima. Witness. All right, so this is the newest game on the list. This one came out in 2014, but when it came out, people were buzzing about it, but it just seemed to go away and never come back, and it's completely out of print. You can't really find it anymore. If you can find it on the secondary market, on the Geek Store, or wherever you can find games, I highly recommend you check this one out. I love this game. Now, this is a mystery-solving, puzzle-solving game. It's cooperative, and it plays like a game of telephone. Each player gets their own little book that has clues in it, and you have a cases book. You flip to a certain case, you read the setup for the case. Each person goes to their own little book and sees what clue you have from that case. And then you start the round. You whisper your secret to the person to your left or right, whatever way you're going. Then that person whispers to the next person both your secret and their secret to that guy. And then that guy's going around the table. So it goes around the table telling the clues that everybody has. And I got to tell you, by the time it gets to the end, no one knows what the hell anybody said. And I love that. It is so absolutely wonderful because you got to be really careful about how you word the clues. Some of them are pretty long. So you have to sort of cut them down to the bare minimum of the information so that they won't forget what you said. Or maybe sometimes you tell them information that you think's important, but other things are important. Because then at the end of the game, you obviously open up the question book, you answer all the questions and see if you can get them right based on the information you have, which is very hard sometimes. There are 60 cases in this book. They start off super easy, super simple. You just got to remember a couple of pieces of information, you're done. When it gets to those last few cases, I got to tell you, I ain't gonna lie, I have no shame in saying that some of them I can't even figure out the puzzle. It is completely crazy how complicated these get. And there's all difficulties in between. And it is so much fun. Even when you get to the ones that are almost too hard for you to do, they're fun to try. Because it's a giant laugh when everybody just completely botches a case. And it's also cool that there are 60 of them because I've had this game since it came out. And many of those cases, I completely forget what they were. So I could play them again and it wouldn't even matter to me. The puzzle's new again. I just remember, oh yeah, that one was about mustaches. I don't even remember what it did. You could play it again. I forget what it was. I gotta tell you, this is such a simple game. It feels like a party game, but it's more about the puzzle solving and deduction of the little case that you got. The artwork is cool. It's like an old-timey cartoon that I'm not really familiar with, Mortimer and Blake or something. I don't remember what that is. But anyway, I love the artwork on it. It feels old-timey. Witness, come on, somebody reprint this game. It is so absolutely fantastic. We could use more cases, tons more cases. 60 in the box is crazy, but I could use more. If you can find Witness, go out and find it and play it, and you will love it. I absolutely dig this game. Witness. Chinatown. The last one on the list is an old one, 1999, Chinatown. Now, the theme of this game is that you have a certain number of blocks of Chinatown, and you're going to acquire properties and you're going to build businesses on them, and you're trying to make them the most profitable businesses as you can. Very simple stuff, because in phase 1, you just draw random cards to see what properties you get. Phase 2, you draw random buildings that you can possibly build on those properties. And then phase 3 is where the game starts. This one, again, like Genoa and Bootleggers, is all about the negotiation, because you start trading the properties, the buildings, the building tiles, money, whatever you want. Even the rulebook says anything goes in this negotiation. So you're trying to make shrewd business deals all through talking with the other players. I absolutely adore this game. This is so fantastic how this game works, because you got to do a lot of math to see, okay, over the next few turns I'm going to make this much money off of this building at this size. If I make it this size bigger, like add one more tile, it's going to make more money. But if I get it all the way, it's going to get this size, it's going to make tons of money, and it's worth this much to me, so that's how much I need to buy for it. I'm going to try to get it for cheaper than that. You're trying to double talk people so that you can get things way cheaper than they're worth. You're trying to sell things to people for way more than they're worth. This is all about being a shrewd businessman, and sometimes an underhanded businessman trying to get people to do things they don't want to do. So again, similar to Genoa, if you're not a negotiation fan, steer clear of this one, because the simplicity of this game otherwise is bare minimum. It's draw random cards, draw random tiles, place the tiles on the board, make money. So it's all random. The negotiation is where you win this game and lose this game. And I got to tell you, it's absolutely fantastic how well it's done. Because of that simplicity of how the game plays otherwise, it allows you to be able to make good deals and see where you need things and see how much things are worth. You got a little player aid that shows you how much things are worth. And over the course of the game, you build an empire in Chinatown that's making you a ton of money. And there's a lot of different strategy avenues as well. You can try to make the biggest maximum sized properties you can to make the most money. Or you can make a lot of cash deals. Like you could take properties that you know other players need and try to sell it to them for big money, and then you're scoring points that way. Instead of scoring points from businesses, you're scoring points from cash deals. You could do a mixture of both. The simplicity of the game is where this game is at, and the negotiation just enhances that so much. Chinatown is an absolutely fantastic game. It could probably use a bit of a retheme, being Chinatown. You're building laundries and laundromats in Chinatown. I don't know about that. But hey, listen, the game is fantastic. If they brought this game back out, if they revised that theme a little bit, I think this would be an absolute winner. Like some of these other games I mentioned, you could have designed this game yesterday, and I wouldn't even know the difference, because it is a modern classic board game. You got to check out Chinatown. All right, gang, well, that is 5 forgotten games that I think deserve more respect. They deserve more attention. So if you liked any of these games, some of them you're probably going to have to find on the secondary market, but if you do, I know you're going to love them, because they're all absolutely fantastic. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we got a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find them at thesecretcabal.com or on all these other great podcast platforms.